They called him mad. They called him dangerous. Some whispered he was immortal, not because he lived forever, but because he claimed death itself was nothing more than a program we could rewrite. His name was Ankaras, and what he discovered about the human body would challenge everything you thought you knew about aging, the disease, and the very nature of life itself. For centuries, this knowledge remained hidden in the ancient libraries of forgotten monasteries, sealed away from those who weren't ready to understand its power. But tonight, that changes. What you're about to learn isn't just theory. It's a practical blueprint for activating the quantum biology that lies dormant within every cell of your body, waiting to be awakened by someone brave enough to believe that youth isn't about time, it's about frequency. Before we dive into Ankaras' forbidden techniques, I need you to understand something crucial. What I'm about to share with you goes against everything mainstream science wants you to believe. The pharmaceutical industry, the medical establishment, even the aging industry worth billions of dollars. They all depend on you believing that getting old is inevitable. But what if I told you that's the biggest lie ever sold to humanity? Ankaras discovered something that would make him disappear from history. He found that your body isn't aging because of time. It's aging because it's forgotten how to remember its original blueprint. Every single cell in your body contains the same quantum information it had when you were young, vibrant, and full of life. The only difference is that somewhere along the way, you stopped sending it the right signals. Think about this for a moment. Your body completely replaces itself every 7 years. These cells that make up your heart, your brain, your skin, they're all newer than your last birthday. So if you're getting older cells, if you're developing wrinkles, if your energy is fading, it's not because your body is breaking down. It's because the information system that tells your cells how to rebuild themselves has been corrupted. But here's where it gets fascinating. Modern quantum physics is finally catching up to what Ankaras knew centuries ago. Scientists are discovering that consciousness doesn't just observe reality, it actually shapes it at the quantum level. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotional patterns, they're not just happening in your mind. They're creating a field of information that your DNA reads like instructions. Dr. Bruce Lipton shocked the scientific community when he proved that genes don't control biology. Environment controls genes. But here's what most people miss. The most powerful environment isn't what's outside your body. It's what's inside your consciousness. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every belief you hold about aging creates a cascade of chemical signals that tell your cells exactly how to behave. When you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror thinking, "I'm getting old," you're not just observing a fact. You're sending a quantum command to trillions of cells, instructing them to continue the aging program. When you say, "I don't have the energy I used to have," you're literally programming your mitochondria to produce less energy. When you believe that memory loss is normal with age, you're giving your neurons permission to disconnect. But what if you could reverse this process? What if you could send different signals? What if you could activate what Ankaras called your quantum biology, the part of you that exists beyond the physical, the part that remembers what it feels like to be young? This is where most people get stuck. They think rejuvenation is about taking supplements, doing exercises, or following some complicated protocol. But Ankaras understood something much more profound. He realized that youth isn't a physical state, it's an energetic frequency. And frequency can be changed in an instant, not through force, but through alignment. Your body is constantly listening to the vibration you're emitting. When you're stressed, worried, or afraid, you're broadcasting a frequency of survival. Your cells receive this signal and immediately shift into protection mode. They stop regenerating. They start storing fat. They reduce energy production. They accelerate aging. This isn't a malfunction. This is your body perfectly responding to the information you're giving it. But when you shift into a frequency of vitality, when you genuinely feel young, alive, and energetic, something magical happens. Your cells receive an entirely different set of instructions. They start producing more energy. They begin repairing damage. They activate longevity genes that have been dormant for years. The ancient masters understood this. They knew that the body follows the mind, but the mind follows something even deeper. It follows what Ankaras called the quantum self, the part of you that exists in the field of infinite possibility, where age is just a concept and youth is your natural state. Here's what's really happening when someone appears to age rapidly after a traumatic event, or conversely, when someone seems to grow younger after falling in love. It's not psychology. It's quantum biology in action. The field of information surrounding their body has shifted, and their cells are responding accordingly. But this raises a crucial question. If your body is capable of renewal, if your cells can rebuild themselves perfectly, if your DNA contains the blueprint for youth, why doesn't this happen automatically? The answer will surprise you. It's because somewhere along the way, you stopped believing it was possible. Every culture has stories of people who lived for hundreds of years, who maintained their youth well beyond what we consider normal. These weren't myths. These were people who understood how to maintain coherence between their consciousness and their biology. They knew how to keep broadcasting the frequency of life instead of the frequency of decay. Ankaras spent decades studying these individuals. He discovered that they all shared certain characteristics. They didn't just think young thoughts or practice positive thinking. They had learned to access a state of being where aging simply wasn't part of their reality. They existed in what he called the quantum field of eternal renewal. This field isn't some mystical concept. Quantum physicists are proving that consciousness can influence matter at the subatomic level. When you learn to access this field consistently, when you can maintain coherence between what you think, what you feel, and what you believe is possible, your body begins to respond in ways that seem miraculous, but are actually completely natural. The key is understanding that you're not trying to fight aging. You're trying to remember youth. You're not trying to fix what's broken. You're trying to activate what's always been perfect. Your quantum biology isn't damaged. It's just been receiving the wrong information. In the hidden manuscript that Ankaras left behind, he outlined specific techniques for accessing this quantum field. Methods that don't require years of meditation or complex rituals. Simple practices that can shift your frequency in minutes, sending new information to your cells, activating dormant genetic programs, and literally reprogramming your biology for renewal. But before we explore these techniques, you need to understand the most important principle of quantum rejuvenation. It's not about believing that aging is reversible. It's about remembering that youth is your natural state, and everything else is just interference that can be cleared. The first technique Ankaras discovered was what he called cellular communication. Every morning, before your feet touch the ground, before your mind fills with the noise of the day, there's a sacred window where your consciousness can speak directly to your body. Place your hand over your heart and feel its rhythm. This isn't just a pump moving blood. This is your body's quantum computer, generating an electromagnetic field 50 times stronger than your brain. In this moment of stillness, whisper to your cells like you would to a beloved friend. Tell them you're ready to remember. Tell them you trust their wisdom. Tell them it's safe to rebuild with the perfection they once knew. Your cells have been waiting for this conversation. They've been following old programs not because they want to, but because no one has given them new instructions. But speaking to your cells is only the beginning. Ankaras understood that true rejuvenation requires what he called energetic coherence. Your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations must align in the same frequency. Most people live in constant contradiction. They think young thoughts, while feeling old emotions while inhabiting a body they see as declining. This mixed signal creates chaos at the cellular level. The second technique involves emotional archaeology. You must uncover and release the emotional patterns that are literally aging you from the inside out. That grief you never processed, it's stored in your lungs, making them heavy, reducing oxygen flow. The anger you swallowed to keep peace, it's inflaming your liver, disrupting detoxification. The fear of not being enough, it's sitting in your kidneys, creating the very weakness you're afraid of. Ankaras taught that emotions aren't just feelings. They're frequencies that either accelerate or decelerate the aging process. When you release an old emotional charge, you're not just healing psychological wounds. You're literally changing the electromagnetic environment of your cells, allowing them to function at optimal levels. Close your eyes and scan your body. Where do you feel tension, pain, or numbness? These aren't random symptoms. They're your body's way of showing you where old emotions have crystallized into physical form. Breathe into these places. Don't try to fix them. Simply acknowledge them with compassion. Sometimes the most profound healing happens when we stop trying to heal and start learning to listen. The third technique is perhaps the most powerful, yet the simplest. Ankaras called it quantum visualization, but it's not what you think. You're not imagining yourself young. You're remembering the energetic blueprint of who you were before the world taught you to age. There's a version of you that exists beyond time, beyond conditioning, beyond the accumulated stories of limitation. This version isn't a fantasy. It's your quantum essence, and it's as real as the breath in your lungs. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and let your breathing become natural and deep. Now, instead of trying to see yourself looking younger, feel yourself being younger. Remember what it felt like when your body moved with effortless grace. Remember when your mind was sharp and clear. Remember when your heart was open and your energy was limitless. This isn't nostalgia. This is quantum archaeology. You're excavating the frequency of youth that still lives within you. As you hold this feeling, notice how your body responds. Notice how your posture changes, how your breathing deepens, how something inside you begins to stir. This is your cellular memory awakening. But here's where most people make a critical mistake. They try to use these techniques to get something they don't have instead of remembering something they've always been. Youth isn't a destination you're trying to reach. It's your natural state that you've temporarily forgotten how to access. The final technique Ankaras taught was the most challenging because it requires complete surrender. He called it quantum trust. You must stop monitoring your progress. Stop looking for evidence in the mirror. Stop measuring your success by external changes. The moment you start checking to see if it's working, you've shifted from the frequency of being young to the frequency of trying to become young. And trying always implies lack. True quantum rejuvenation happens in the space between thoughts, in the gap between breaths, in the silence between heartbeats. It happens when you're so present, so aligned with your essential nature, that aging becomes irrelevant. Not because you're fighting it, but because you have transcended the very concept that made it possible. Your body knows how to be young. Your cells know how to regenerate perfectly. Your DNA knows how to activate longevity genes. The only question is, are you willing to get out of the way and let it happen? This is the secret Ankaras died protecting. Not a formula or a protocol, but a remembering. A return to the frequency of life itself. A recognition that youth isn't about time, it's about presence. It's about aligning with the part of you that has never aged, will never age, because it exists beyond the realm where aging is possible. The choice is yours. You can continue believing the lie that aging is inevitable, or you can activate the quantum biology that's been waiting patiently for you to remember who you really are. The fountain of youth isn't a place you find. It's a frequency you become. And now that you know the secret, now that you understand the truth about your quantum nature, there's only one question left. What are you going to choose? Because every moment, with every breath, with every thought, you're either programming your cells for renewal or decay. The power has always been in your hands. Ankaras simply reminded us how to use it.